We are rolling.
Yo. I got some Ultra Watermelon Monster, and I dumped in the mango chili salt.
There's no way.
From Element, and it's dope, man. It's got a kick to it. It's got I didn't dump the whole packet in there. I'm not a madman, but
yeah, that'd be not good.
But anybody that's going to try something like that, be careful because you get a lot of fizz coming your way.
Oh, shit. That's right. Yeah.
It started bubbling over this cup that I have here, which is also an Element cup.
Fancy
Stay salty.
That. You won't. That's awesome. Yeah. Let's see what I did it in sparkling water and totally underestimated the fizz.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like shotgunning Element electrolytes. So
the only thing you can do is suck it down.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to get your lips on there and
can I get a hey now?
Yep. Hey now.
All right. If you don't want a hey now, you guys can pick up some Element electrolytes ASAP. Drinklmnt.com/power project. Check out the value bundle. That's basically you're getting 4 boxes for the price of 3. And again, we're big fans of the new watermelon salt. You will not be disappointed. Or you can check out some of the spicier ones, the habanero flavors, which Mark's been digging lately, putting in some awesome concoctions. But yeah, drinklmnt.com/power project. Head over there right now.
It can help, with some of today's topic here. We're talking about dieting. We're talking about cravings and stuff like that. Something else you can do with the Element stuff is you can take the chocolate salt and you can just get some hot water, throw some hot water in a cup, in a mug, and throw that chocolate salt in there, and you have like a warm cocoa at night.
I haven't tried that.
It's pretty damn good. You might, just depending on your palate, you might not want to use a whole packet. It might be a little extra salty, and then you can also throw some like whipped cream on top of there. It's freaking delicious.
Damn, that does sound good.
I pour that stuff all over everything though. Like I've been putting it on the legendary Pop-Tarts. I pour the chocolate salt on there. Any chance I can get, I'm putting it in pudding and protein shakes and all over the place.
Have you microwaved the Legendary Foods Tasty Pastry?
Yeah, about 15 seconds and you got perfection. I also learned that you got to chop it down the middle.
Okay.
Because you chop it down the middle and then you get you just get more surface area of the gushy stuff.
Oh, that good gushy.
Yeah, the whole thing needs to be made out of that gushiness.
Yeah, we need more.
I know.
We gotta hit.
But then I'm sure the macros won't be worth a shit for you.
It's a good thing we're not tracking right now,
right?
Anyways,
I've been watching a lot of Gravity Transformation. I believe that's the name of the YouTube channel, and I really appreciate the information that guy's putting out there. And we keep our ear to the street, and we see a lot of the comments from Lane Norton and Kevin Bass, and we also have a lot of great guests on the show talking about nutrition. And I think sometimes what can happen is we end up saying things that are so that appear to be so over the top because we've been doing this for a long time. We're talking about bench pressing 500 pounds and somebody else hasn't even started in the gym yet. We're talking about 1,000-pound squat and someone's never even learned how to squat properly. And I think that's what's going on here with nutrition is that what I think would be helpful is to have as many people as possible talking in a reasonable way about nutrition and not really fighting back and forth and trying to get a message out that can really, truly help people. And I think the only way that's going to happen is we have to be reasonable with our suggestions. Now, I have some ridiculous suggestions, but I also try to explain away my, I guess you'd say some people might think of them as crazy diets, like a carnivore diet, a keto style diet, the diet that I'm doing right now, the OMAD diet. 1 meal a day type stuff, intermittent fasting. I just want to explain to everybody that these things, they start out with incremental progress, just like the gym, just like anyone that's gets to be comfortable with running. One person could say, man, that is actually really wild that you run 5 miles every day. And someone else might say, shit, man, that's all you do is run 5 miles. Like that's easy. Right. So there's many levels to a lot of what we're communicating with and a lot we're trying to communicate about. And for some folks, sometimes it's as simple as, sorry about that. My phone's blowing up. My phone's like possessed. I can't get the volume to like come down for some reason. I don't know what happened to it. Something weird.
You got to hit the switch on the side.
I know something weird happened. But anyway, so some of my suggestions more recently might be a little off the wall, but I try my best to explain them and to communicate them out in a way that shows people that this is all incremental. Like if you've never dieted before, I don't necessarily think that one meal a day is a great thing to switch to. If you've never even tried any sort of fasting, it's probably going to drive you crazy. Now, there are some folks, though, that can switch things up right away. They just hear a suggestion and boom, they're off to the races and they go. But for most people, you're probably going to have to get into this in an incremental way. And I'm just going to give you guys a couple things that you can do that I feel are really, really simple. Number one is you can start to limit/restrict consuming any calories from liquid. I think that, and when I say any calories, I'm not talking about any calories ever, and I'm not talking about like a protein shake or something like that. It's probably not. A protein shake can be useful to help you get to your protein requirement for the day. Plus, they can be tasty. But things like smoothies and frappuccinos and what you put in your Starbucks coffee and all these things, and soda, iced tea with sugar in it and things like that. These things can really add up. And I'm not trying to say that you can't ever put anything in your coffee either. You certainly can. I'm just saying be conscious of it. Pay attention to it, because we've had a lot of people, Andrew, that we've given that one tip to, that one suggestion, and they're like, man, I lost 8 pounds because they just weren't really recognizing how many calories they were consuming in the form of liquid. And liquid's not really going to be all that satiating or filling. It might be kind of satisfying because it might taste good. Even something like a Gatorade, which I think people think is good for you. Gatorade's primarily just sugar, or even apple juice or orange juice. I would go as far to say as these things are horrible for you, because you're normally getting it like a 20-ounce thing, and you're just taking in my opinion, you're taking in way too much sugar in way too short period of time. Rather than if you were to do it in its natural form and you eat an actual orange, it would have cofactors in it that would help slow down the absorption, help slow down the digestion. It helps slow down the sugar hitting your system. And in addition to that, it would also fill you up better because it has fiber in it and a bunch of other stuff. So that would be kind of like one of my first places to start.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest offender is that orange juice. People, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I don't have enough time, so I'm just going to grab an orange juice because that's healthy.
And a piece of toast with some butter on it.
Oh, that sounds good.
All delicious, all things that you can eat. Mm-hmm. But like, man, you better really be paying attention to your lifestyle if that's the choice that you're going to make walking out the door. And what's it going to do for your hunger?
Oh, you're going to be starving.
You're going to be super hungry because you didn't really have an opportunity to actually consume any protein or any fiber.
Yeah, but the thing that I was getting at was like, so people say like, oh, actually don't even have breakfast. But like that, 20-ounce bottle of like Minute Maid or whatever, naturally squeezed orange juice has about the same amount of calories as like a legit breakfast. At some, you could have some egg whites or something with that toast instead with black coffee. But people don't recognize that because they just completely overlook the liquid calories because it's not food.
So there's one thing you can do that I feel is like, I think that's reasonable. I think even if you were to have 5 or 6 glasses of sugary drinks every day, and you backed it off down to just having one, like shit, man, we just made an improvement. Another place where people can pick up a lot of activity is through walking, or just can pick up meaningful ways to help them lose weight is just through some sort of like walking or riding your bike or whatever that low resistance thing is for you. Now, if you're a larger person and you're obese, like walking might even be actually really painful. So then you might have to try to figure out like can you punch a heavy bag? Can you maybe get on an elliptical, which people kind of make fun of an elliptical, but don't sleep on that exercise, man. That's a great way to get your heart rate up, a great way to get yourself sweating. So another great tool too is if you're comfortable with getting into a pool, move around in a pool as much as you can. You don't really have to be a great swimmer to burn calories. You can even walk in a pool. And those are all like viable things that I think are really simple and easy things to get into. Obviously, we'd love to see you get into the gym, because if you train and you build muscle, muscle is active tissue that helps burn calories, and that is very helpful for whether we're on a diet or whether we decide to come off a diet for a bit, or we cheat on our diet, or we take in excess calories here and there. Having more muscle mass is going to allow us to burn more calories than we would if we didn't have that muscle mass.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to get too lost in the weeds, but basically adding more muscle gives you way more of a margin for error.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have that little extra something, but you're a fat burning machine at that point. I know we're not talking about already being there. We're trying to get there right now, but that's just something to look forward to when it comes to like what the next, goal or exercise should be.
It's pretty damn encouraging too.
Yeah.
Even for somebody that's not in the best shape at the moment, as they start to lose a little bit of weight and they do some exercise, they do some strength training, you're not going to see like muscle right away. You're not going to see the changes right there. But what's really motivating is the amount of weight that you can move. You're like, oh my God, like the 20-pound dumbbells felt heavy first week I was in here. Now I got double that. Now I'm holding on to the 40s, and this is badass. And it'll make you feel really good about yourself, because you're going to probably, you're going to start to think a lot differently about yourself. You're going to be able to achieve things that you thought, maybe you just never even thought about them at all, but you're probably going to achieve stuff that you never thought was possible for you in particular.
Absolutely. So, when you're talking about being more reasonable and stuff, right now your 1 meal a day doesn't seem too reasonable for people. I wanted to talk about those hunger feelings, that hunger pain. How has that been going for you?
It hasn't been that bad because it's been incremental, right? So like right now I'm pretty hungry because I ate yesterday morning, and I won't have an opportunity to eat again until like later on tonight, like 7 p.m. or something like that. So I got like I got like a 36-hour fast or something going on. It's a pretty long fast. So yeah, right now I'm actually fairly hungry, but I'm going to occupy my time as I did earlier today with a walk. Some black coffee can help, tea can help, and then just lifting is going to occupy my time, and working. So between like lifting and working and doing other stuff, as long as I don't have a ton of downtime, I'm not really having an issue. Now, it does sound unreasonable to do 1 meal a day, but it also is really nice to have lines that are very definitive. How do I cheat on this particular diet? You cheat on this diet by breaking your fast and eating multiple times a day. It's kind of the only way to cheat on this particular diet, although I do think it would be great for everyone to be mindful that the only way to really truly cheat on any diet is to overconsume calories on a consistent basis. That should be at least in the back of everyone's mind, just kind of paying attention to the overall energy. And if you didn't move much yesterday, you better move a lot today, and so on. And I'll get into more of that in a minute, but one thing that I think is really interesting is somebody will say, I can't do that. There's no way I could adjust to only eating 1 meal a day. That sounds unreasonable. Well, I would say, and this is not in any sort of mean way, this is in like, hey, I'm your buddy, I'm your uncle, I'm your brother. I would say, dude, you know what I find unreasonable? I find it unreasonable for you to be unhealthy, for you to be sick, for you to have diabetes, and for you to sit on your couch continuously every single night and watch your favorite show and eat all your favorite foods all the time when clearly you're not happy. Now, there are people that don't complain about it. There are people that are heavier, that live their lives, they're totally comfortable, and I'm not talking about those people. I'm only talking about people that are in recognition of this is a problem for me and I need to make changes. I would say what you're currently doing is unreasonable because you continue to go down the same path, but yet you continue to complain about it every day. And what I'm trying to suggest here is an OMAD diet, a keto style diet, a carnivore diet. just picking a side, picking something to do, a war on carbs, if it fits your macros, whatever diet you want to do, whatever diet you need to do, whatever form of exercise you need to do, for you to kind of fit your mindset, I'm in favor of, because I want to see you win. So as unreasonable as it might sound for you to take a sledgehammer to your television, that might be the greatest decision that you've ever made in your life. My favorite speaker of all time is a guy named Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn would say, hey, how much does your TV cost? And this is like in the 80s when he would say it. So people were like, I don't know, $500-$600, or whatever the prices were at the time. And he's like, no, what do you think it actually really cost you, like per week or per month or yearly? And they're like, I don't know. Like, how much is electricity? They're like, I don't know, a couple cents. I run it for a few hours every night. And he's like, no. Like, how much do you think it really costs you? And they're like, well, I guess there's a cable bill. So like, okay, maybe it's, $50 a month or whatever it is. And he's like, no. He's like, I think that because you make 50 grand a year and you want to make 75 grand a year, I think it costs you at least $25,000. He's like, and it costs you $25,000 every year that you're doing that. So over the last, 5 years, over the last 4 years, your TV costs you $100K. I know that these things, again, I know that sometimes they sound unreasonable, but where are you spending your time? When we're out and about, we're walking around, when we have the god awful situation where we have to walk into a Walmart and we see the ultimate representation of the United States, we're like, fuck, man. Well, would it shock you if you asked people that you're seeing there that are large, if you ask them, where do you spend your time? I mean, they're probably going to lie to you, but they probably spend their time in their kitchen. They probably spend their time in front of their TV. They probably spend their time in front of a computer screen. It's very clear they're spending more time concentrating on food and concentrating on not moving than they are moving, as opposed to if you, went and saw like beach volleyball or something like that. It's quite obvious these people are into movement. They move around a lot. They have a lot of activity. It's incorporated into their lives, and all the way to the point where their diet is actually maybe not as relevant as you may think. But it's also because they didn't fall into this kind of deadly trap of getting addicted to food.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say one trend, because I know you don't frequent Walmart as often as I do, if ever. It's something, I don't know, because I don't know how to like address it, but a new thing is people will bring in like, those like wireless speakers that like their own battery power or whatever, and they'll play their own music as they shop.
That's great.
Which I'm cool with, because most of the time it's like pretty good beats, like I dig it, but at the same time, like, I don't know. That's not okay. Like, I don't know. It's just strange to me.
It's all loud.
It's very loud. Yeah. It's anyways. Are you finding that you're getting hungry at about the same times?
Yeah. Hunger signals are, the smell of food obviously is one. Just as humans in general, like we always have the fear of missing out, right? We got some FOMO going on. So when somebody else eats, that's a little bit of a trigger. Mm-hmm. But, some of the research will even point to the fact that we get hungry around the same times every day. And some of that is conditioned through breakfast, lunch, dinner. And also in, just, again, the TV, the computer, like what are you used to, and sometimes being around certain friends that maybe you get around certain friends and you're used to just kind of eating like crappy, junky food, and you kind of fall into these kind of these pitfalls. But for me, what I've noticed with hunger is that there's different kind of phases of hunger, especially through fasting, which I recommend to everybody. I think everyone should incorporate, everyone should implement some fasting. I'm not talking about a 3-day fast or a 5-day fast, or I don't think anyone necessarily ever has to experience any of those things. But they've been helpful for me in dialing back the amount of food that I eat. During this one meal a day, I took a picture the other day in front of my, or was sitting at a table, and I just had tons and tons of food in front of me. And my wife asked, she was like, so this would mean that, normally like you've been staying a similar body weight for a while. She's like, this would mean that you normally eat more than that in a day. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Yeah. Every day I definitely eat more than this because I currently am losing weight. And she's like, that doesn't even seem possible. I was like, but I'm a big person, and I've been a big person for a long time. So, but anyway, my point there is that when you see the amount of food that you eat in a day, when it's all sitting there in front of you in one meal, you're like, holy shit, man, I'm a gluttonous motherfucker. You're like, I eat a lot of food, and it's reasonable for you to say, you know what, I could do a better job of that because I got 5 or 6 different things in front of me where I could be like, okay, this could represent one meal. 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 And if I'm being honest, I could probably pull about 10% from each one of those and be totally fine, be totally healthy, have all the nutrients that I wouldn't be walking around all malnourished and messed up and all those kinds of things. So I think that some of these practices, they just lead you in a direction to learn a lot more about yourself. And when we're talking about diet, the hardest thing with any sort of diet is to maintain any sort of control. There's all these factors that you feel like you don't have any control over. And then you kind of aimlessly and blindly end up eating stuff that you're like, I didn't want to, like, damn it, I didn't want to do that again. And you're like, I just snacked on, some of the kids' stuff from the pantry. And these kinds of things, they happen. And one answer sometimes is to not purchase these things, but an even better option is to reform the way that you think about all these things and understand that these foods sitting in your cupboard, they don't make you fat. You can get triggered and you can get into a position where you're eating these things and you're making a mistake again by eating them because you may lack control. I don't have any control, so I can't eat these things. I can't touch them. I can barely be around them, but because I have kids, I've learned control, and I've been doing this for a really long time. So I can have ice cream and candy bars and whatever in the house, but my communication with my children is like, this isn't food for you either. Like, this isn't food for anybody. Like, this is not real food. This is entertainment. And just like any other form of entertainment, yeah, let's have some entertainment, but let's also make sure that we get shit done every day. Make sure we're productive every day. Is entertainment part of being human and part of being productive? Fuck yeah, it is. Of course it is. Like, we need it. Like, I think that I need it personally. So I don't know about everybody else, but like, I want to watch TV with my kids. I want to watch TV with my wife. I want to see a good movie. I want to go to a comedy show. I want to, go out and like do shit. I don't want to just sit around and think about my bodybuilding diet all day, But then how do you carry around these principles and these ideas with you everywhere you go? And one great way to do it, I think, is through utilizing some strategies like intermittent fasting, because you can kind of you can use fasting and you can be a chameleon with your food. Like, no one ever has to know that you're on a diet. Like, not that it needs to be a private thing or you need to be embarrassed or worried about it, but like, you can go to the beat of whatever drum, whatever food someone's eating. You don't have to be picky. You don't have to carry around Tupperware with you. You can go that route if you want to be that strict and you want to keep things in that range, but it's not always necessary. You can fast and you can make adjustments, or even forget about fasting for a moment. You can just make different choices with your food where you go low calorie on a couple days. And then that weekend, the 4th of July, that you're going to hang out with your buddies on their boat and like eat a bunch of junk food, you could have already accounted for it. and you could be hanging out with them and they could be like, yo, how come you're in such better shape than us? And it could be because you've been prepping for it. You've been paying attention to what you're doing. And when I was watching this video today from Gravity Transformation, that's exactly what he talked about. He talked about partitioning off the calories on different days. And in his case, he was like, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I don't eat at all. Mm-hmm. And, Tuesday, Thursday, I eat this many calories. And then by the end of the week, it ends up being this much of a deficit. Then I can kind of eat whatever I want, in air quotes, because it's not whatever you want and whenever you want. It's also still needs to have some rules to it, because you don't want to you could very easily overconsume calories even when you utilize some fasting. But when you make those choices and you have extra calories to kind of play with, maybe at the end of the day or maybe at the end of the week, and then you start to incorporate a couple other rules in there, like I'm going to eat protein first, I'm going to eat vegetables next, maybe I'll have some complex carbohydrates from rice or a potato, maybe I'll eat some fruit. Once you start getting you're down to, you just ate some fruit. You're like, if you had some strawberries, had some heavy whipping cream on it, you're probably good. Even if you're a chubster. I got the chubbiness in my body for many, many years. And just, I love sweet foods. I love all that stuff. I love peanut butter cups and brownies and fucking cookies. And I love all that bullshit. But when I get through all those foods like that, or even when I'm really, really hungry, like really hungry, because I've been fasting for so long, I'm never thinking about a donut or pizza. There's some cravings in there where I'll note it. I'll see a commercial for Carl's Jr. or something like that, and they always hit you with some Sonic right now is smashing me really bad with some really good shakes and stuff. So that stuff will hit me here or there, but it will come and go, and it's not a huge deal. And I'm like, no, you know what? When I get to my meal, the most important thing is that I kick it off with protein, and I'll eat a big steak. So I think a lot of people think the healthy food that they do get when they do get a chance to eat. I think if you were to ask, 1,000 people, what's your favorite food? I think it would be rare that you would see. I think it'd be rare that you see anyone, like not anyone. I think it'd be very rare for you to see people saying foods that are healthy. Like you're not going to see somebody probably say, "Oh, I love an orange is my favorite food. A pineapple is my favorite food." Or steak is my favorite. Maybe like a little bit here and there, but it's like really rare. People are usually like pizza, hot dogs, ice cream. And you're like, no, hold on a second. I asked you what your favorite food is. What is your favorite food? They'll say, I don't know, chips. No, I'm trying to ask you a fucking question here. What's your favorite food? And they probably wouldn't understand what you're talking about. I love cereal. Nope. Okay, I guess I'll just frame it again. What's your favorite food? And the point there would be all the things that you're listing are man-made things that aren't real food. Let's just talk about real food and let's concentrate on eating real food. If you concentrate on eating real food, and if you're a parent and you communicate to your children that they got to eat real food, no one has to worry about any of this bullshit that I'm spewing at all. You don't even really need to necessarily be on a diet because the food itself will help you calibrate and adjust the amount of calories that you consume every single day, because it's not impossible, but it's nearly impossible to overeat on a lot of the foods that are real foods.
Yeah. And if anyone's interested, that picture of you with all the food in front of you, it's available on Instagram at Mark Bell's Power Project. But one thing what I noticed, I was actually kind of bummed. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of food. And then I looked and I'm like, that's actually not that much food. Mm-hmm. I was kind of upset. It's like, what the heck? Like I was expecting a significant amount more. Kind of going back to the hunger thing. We were talking off air about like that hunger feeling. Does that automatically mean that like your body's eating itself? That's kind of what people think, right? Like, oh, I'm getting hangry. My body's going to wither away. But do you think it's necessary to experience that hunger like sensation in order to burn fat?
Yeah, I think it is. I think you need to experience at least some hunger. Back to the food just for a minute. So when I take a picture and I'm trying to get that much food into one shot, it's actually hard to illustrate how much food it really is. I should probably just weigh it all or something at some point.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Because it's like, it's pounds of food.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking pounds of food.
I love doing that.
So it's like a pound of shrimp. It's like a pound of turkey. It's a, it's a full bavette steak from Piedmontese, which is probably like 14 or 16 ounces. Like, so there's quite a lot of food there, but like when it's in a bowl and it's like in a picture from back a little bit, trying to get all the food in there, you're not going to see that much. So I would have to say that it's probably, depending on which picture it is, I would say it's probably like 4 or 5 pounds of food at least, because, and there's still not that many calories in a lot of it because there's just not that much fat in any one particular thing. Although I have been eating hot dogs, but they're Piedmontese hot dogs, which are kind of more, they're double the amount of protein than they are fat, but
they're enhanced.
But yeah, man, you got to be hungry. Jack LaLanne famously said that he thinks most people should kind of have sunken in cheeks and they should look like they need to eat a sandwich.
Whoa.
And I agree. I think that maybe that's taken things to an extreme, but we all know like athletes that have kind of a gaunt face, they got a kind of sucked in cheeks. And I think that when you are like that is when your senses are heightened. It's when you're kind of, it's like a primal thing. Like we're supposed to be hungry. Our body is really designed to be really hungry. And it's funny that we've gotten so far away from being hungry that fasting has become such a thing. But, let me just point out the fact that fasting is very natural. And so is something like a carnivore diet. And here we are in 2021 trying to explain away the reasons why you should be eating this way. But these are ways that we've been eating probably for millions of years, maybe with some exceptions. And now I'm not saying like we always go back and make things as difficult as our ancestors had to deal with, because that doesn't make any sense either. It doesn't make any sense to like, burn all the modern clothes and boots and socks and different things that we have. These are all like great inventions. It seems like a great idea to protect your feet. When you go outside in the rain or snow, it's like, man, I would not last 5 seconds, right? We created a lot of weapons, and we learned a lot of things about like cooking food and preparing food so we don't get sick and so forth. But the human body seems to be very well adapted and very, very used to getting hungry. I think maybe people say starving a lot, and I've worked on my language with that, since there's, millions of people die every year from starvation. I think that you're not trying to ever starve yourself. You're not eating such a low amount of food that you're nutrient deficient. We're just talking about fasting for a few hours. You got your sleep, which is 8 hours, and then maybe you can pick up an additional 4 to 8 hours of waking hours to fast. And now you're in a range of fasting for 12 to maybe 18 hours or so, something like that. So I think that most of those things are fairly reasonable. The diet I'm doing right now, which is OMAD, has me fasting longer, has me fasting 20 plus hours each day, but it's just something I wanted to do. I did it with a friend. He was really struggling with his weight, and so I just kind of threw the challenge out to him, and I kind of knew like if I'm going to throw this challenge his way, I better do it with him. And so I've been doing it with him, and it feels great. This feels like the easiest diet that I've ever done. I think because the rules are so clear, kind of like when I've originally started doing what I would call a no carb diet. The rules were simple, like just don't eat carbs. And then it was like, okay, well, you need to balance out your energy somehow. So incorporate some fat, and then make sure you eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, just so we have something to eat and so that we can keep muscle mass. And those kinds of things have felt easy for me because I'm like, okay, well, this is the rule. I don't have a problem following that rule. That's pretty simple. But I would also say, if you give me instructions, and the instructions require time from me, for me personally, I'm probably not going to do it. That's where like counting calories or weighing stuff is going to come into play. I'm just like, man, all right, I'm out, and then plus like, I'm not a technical person, so I don't have a lot of apps on my phone and things. I know some people like, they kind of like that. I think it's like a hobby, to have a fitness pal on their phone, to type it in, and they get used to that. And that ends up being a great way of monitoring, the food that you eat. That's all I'm doing through fasting and through kind of setting up some of these rules about, kind of be protein minded first. It's all just to help you control your diet, control the overall amount of energy that you're consuming every day. Another way to do that is you could weigh your food.
Yeah, I love nerding out on all of that stuff. Real quick, would you say that OMAD is easier than just going carnivore? Because that's very, very black and white. You just eat meat.
Mm-hmm. I think that, the carnivore stuff gets to be a challenge because you just simply don't have enough food. Like if you're trying to be just purely carnivore, it's kind of the way that I eat now, but I have like just enough of some other stuff in there that I have a little bit of vegetables, I have a little bit of fruit, I'll have a potato here and there. So I'm meat minded, meat first, protein's a priority. But carnivore to me kind of gets to be it gets to be like a little maddening, like, because when I was doing it originally, I also didn't even have like a protein shake. So what I've learned from that, though, is that your food, for some people, your food probably shouldn't be too monotonous. You do want to focus on single ingredient foods, but there's probably no reason and no greater benefit to just focus in on single foods, period. That was the other thing with the carnivore diet, is I didn't see any added benefit to like not eating vegetables. I didn't see any added benefit to not eating fruit. I didn't see any added benefit to not consuming a protein shake. I also would say that like I didn't see some sort of crazy huge benefit to eating vegetables or fruit, but it just helped, I think, give my stomach some stability, give me different flavors. Like you don't want your shit to be, we always have to go back to this idea of, said by Vince Lombardi, fatigue makes cowards of us all. It doesn't matter what you're tired from. Being tired is being tired, and being tired leads to poor decision-making skills. If your mind is kind of worn down because you're tired of doing the same thing every day, then your decision-making skills suck. Your mind is going to give you a lot of bad suggestions over and over again, especially when it's tired. When your mind is fresh and your mind's doing pretty good, it still gives you bad suggestions, but the suggestions aren't as bad, and they're usually more tame. So in this video that I was watching, the guy did a great job of explaining like there's kind of a difference between your physical hunger and your mind's hunger. And I've kind of always referred to that a little differently and just kind of said rather than hunger, I would say that it's like a craving. It's a want as opposed to like a need. Hunger is something like we need food, so it makes sense for your body to be pretty hungry. But the cravings are probably things that we could not do without completely, because I think it's important to hit those cravings here and there. But it's something that we really need to work on managing. And on top of that, we have to fulfill our physical hunger anytime that we want to get into making sure that we're satisfying our cravings. Because if you satisfy your cravings without filling up your hunger hole, then your craving hole, you're going to eat way too much. You're going to consume way too much. You're going to eat way too many calories. And that's where you end up with things like binge eating. And I think you also end up with binge eating by restricting too much. I've had a lot of people ask me before about, what do I do about eating in the middle of the night? How do I stop eating in the middle of the night? And my answer to it is don't stop. Keep it going. Keep it rolling. Keep that train moving. Instead, though, make a protein shake. You can buy, I love these Fairlife drinks. They make chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, banana. I want to say 6 to 8 grams of carbohydrates, 26 grams of protein. They even make one that has 4 grams of carbs and 30 protein. They freaking taste delicious. I've had many nights where I wake up, I'll drink one of those, I'll eat a Quest bar. I don't do that at the moment because right now I'm focusing on this one meal a day, and it's a real bitch. And I've been able to kind of turn the corner on that just kind of in general anyway. But we have to act on our cravings here and there. So I think this is where like a cheat meal comes in, these kinds of things. But those end up being really slippery slopes, and it just needs to be accounted for. So if you were to say, hey, 3 times a month, I'm going to allow myself to cheat and kind of eat what I want, but I'm going to put 1,000 calorie limit on it. I would say, fuck, man, that sounds awesome. That sounds really reasonable. You might even be able to find that you might have more frequency with that. The leaner that you are, the more frequency you could have with that, and the more you could get away with it, as long as you can actually follow through, and as long as you can actually, do the meal. But be careful with your restrictions, and be careful with overdoing your caloric restrictions as well. Because if you don't take in enough energy, then you ask someone how they're doing, and they're like, I'm dead, man. I'm really wiped out. And it's like, okay, well, now we need to find out what you're wiped out from. You wiped out from lack of sleep. Are you stressed because there's relationship things going on, or there's stuff at work going on? Or are you simply like not consuming much calories? You're not eating enough fat, Andrew. Mm-hmm. You're not consuming enough calories, and you're on this exercise kick. Well, that's going to make you feel terrible. And so I think a better strategy is to say, I'm going to control my calories. I'm going to do the best I can with them, but I'm also not going to be so wrapped up in them and so crazy about them that I'm going to make myself feel like crap. Because you can get into a situation where you're like, oh, if I eat that, I'm going to get fat. Or if I eat that amount of calories, and it's like, no, you're not necessarily going to get fat. You can actually trade out your calories on different days, and you can kind of have higher calories on one day, lower calories on another. You can utilize some intermittent fasting, but you could also just move a bunch. But you're not going to be encouraged to move if you don't have any calories, because calories are our only form of energy. Energy does not come from caffeine. Energy doesn't come from any sort of drink of any kind. Unless the drink has calories in it, it just comes from, it doesn't come from a pre-workout. Our energy comes from our macronutrients, protein, carbs, fats, even ketones. And if your energy is not fulfilled every day and you're not nourished every day, you're going to feel like shit. You're going to feel tired, and you're going to find yourself like the next time that you sit down on the couch and feel a little bit lazy, I want you to ask yourself why you're there. Like, what happened? Why are you there? Did you really, really, really work hard? That's probably what you're going to say. But I'd like you to think about it deeper than just that. Because maybe you did. Maybe you did get after it for that day. But the likelihood is probably pretty low. You probably didn't do anything all that different than you have in the past. It's probably didn't eat enough. You probably didn't get the proper sleep. And you might be a little overstressed about a couple things. And that's when you got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and figure out a way to move more. People talk about move more and eat less. I think the combination of those two things can be like deadly if you have them going on at the same time all the time. And so I would rather see people, when they are trying to manage their calories, to do so in a strategic way. This is why I don't actually count my calories, because I think intuitively, I eat a different amount of calories every day, just based off how at the moment it's one meal a day, so it's different. But I think intuitively, normally, when I am a little bit more fatigued, I will just like lean towards eating like a ribeye, or having a couple extra eggs, or figuring out a way, how do I get more nutrient density into my diet? Do that for 2 or 3 days. I'll feel good again. And then sure enough, I'm making sure I'm hitting all the 10-minute walks that I'm supposed to do and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Can you kind of get into that, the intuitive part? But even when you were saying back in the day, you would put LF, HF on the calendar.
Yeah. So, I used to write, like when I was doing a paleo diet, coming down from 330 pounds. I was getting down to about 290 or so, and I kind of got stuck for a little bit. So I was like, oh, I think I'm probably just consuming too much food. And so I would write on the calendar, like every other day, I'd write like LF or HF, LF, HF, back and forth. And all that was like low food, high food, low food, high food. I'm a really, really simple person. So I would just say, all right, well, this is a day where I'm going to eat more. And I would just say on these other days, this is a day where I'm going to eat a little bit less. And so I would just, learn to manage it kind of through, through some of that. But it's something that ended up, working out well for me. And it on the higher calorie days, it's like I was usually looking forward to that. And on the lower calorie days were easy because I had something to look forward to the next day.
That's awesome. Unfortunately, you have a call that you got to get to very, very soon here. You're actually probably late, but
once again.
Well, so I have to put this down on record. One of the coolest things, I've seen a handful of things that Mark has done where I'm like, that's going to get stuck in my memory. Mark was setting up for a very important phone call, and it was important because Andy came out into the gym, and she's like, you need to be over here now. She was like, quit fucking around. And then you just turned, and I think we were filming, and you're like, I'm not going to stop working out because if it wasn't for what I do in here, they wouldn't want me on that phone call.
Right.
So fuck that phone call for right now. I'm going to stay here. But of course, this is all ultimately up to you. We can shut her down right now, or if you want to keep going, let's keep going.
Yeah, just kind of lastly, I would like to just kind of say, just be cautious of where you're spending your calories and just ask yourself if it's really worth it. How does it help? How does it hurt? That's a moniker that I have in my head kind of all the time with all decisions that I make. And, do you really want to spend, you have X amount of like dollars per day. Do you really want to spend that amount of calories on, just having some sugar in your coffee? Maybe you do. Maybe that's like something you really enjoy. Maybe that's something you really love. But I think for most people, I guess I'd just say for myself, I'd rather have that in the form of like food, something that's going to kind of fill me up, or something that's going to like really truly taste good, which I personally don't think that coffee tastes that good. And everyone that differs from me, they're always like, you're full of shit, man. Coffee rocks. But then I learn how they drink their coffee, and it's with 500 extra calories in it normally. So anyway, I would just say be careful of where you're spending your calories and make sure that whatever it is that you're spending it on, just really make sure that it's worth it. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to just like hunger and some of the stuff we touched upon here today is that we're going to be hungry, and in most cases we're hungry for protein, but a lot of times we're looking for protein in all the wrong places. You're not going to find your protein requirements at the bottom of a bag of Doritos. And so you need to eat things that are high in protein. Eating protein is going to be satiating. It's going to help fill you up. Eating vegetables is going to be satiating. It's going to help fill you up. Eating fruit is going to be satiating. It's going to help fill you up. However, none of those things, they don't always hit your cravings. So make room for your cravings. Like don't try to not have cravings, and don't think that you have to go 30 days straight without fulfilling any cravings at all. I mean, you might need to here and there. So make room for those cravings, but try to do so in a reasonable way.
Absolutely. And real quick, shout out to our in-studio guest, Shane from
What's up, Shane?
More Than Meatheads podcast. Mark was featured on his podcast. Definitely go check that out. This dude's awesome. Came all the way from Concord to just hang out.
Hell yeah.
That's fucking dope. Oh yeah. But drinklmnt.com/power project. Links down in the description below. Make sure you guys hit them up, because some of the stuff that Mark talked about today, the fasting, the 1 meal a day, can be aided significantly with the help of electrolytes. Follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. My Instagram is at the Andrews. Oh no, that's my TikTok is at the Andrew Z. At I am Andrew Z on Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure you guys are following Nsima at Nsima Inyang on TikTok because he's absolutely crushing it. And I believe that's all I got from me. Mark, where you at?
At Mark Smelly Bell on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Strength is never weakness, weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.